Surprise, alive. I made it back to Johannesburg, South Africa after spending so much time in Tanzania. I didn't want to come back, but I did want to come back because I love it here also. But there were so many questions while I was away. As you can see, I've been sharing content all about Zanzibar, and the inquiries, the questions are coming in. So we wanted to make sure that we answered your questions, because if one of you guys have questions, probably 100 of you have questions. And so I'll be joined today by Justa Ludwigana, and we're going to talk all things Zanzibar, all things Africa Investors Academy Summit, but we're also going to give you a little bit of insight into why we're doing the summit, why we're so passionate about tourism, and why we're bringing this opportunity to you. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. For those that are not new, welcome back. On this channel, Ashley in Africa, I share my experience of traveling, living, and moving here to the continent of Africa. I'm also the founder of Africa Investors Academy, a membership community of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and investors who are building their businesses, expanding their businesses, and investing in projects here on the continent. So welcome back. Let's go ahead and bring in our friend Justa. Hi, Justa.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am brightly well. I had to put on a bright color today. I'm like, I need to be bright.
Yes, you're doing it. You're brightly well. It's so good to see you.
You too. It's good to see you.
Tell us where you're joining from.
I am joining from New York, but it's raining right now. It is crazy raining. So that's why I'm like, I am brightly showing up. So if you're in New York, I'm brightly showing up with you because the weather right now is not happening.
Well, thank you for showing up with us. It's beautiful and sunny here in sunny South Africa. So I'll just share some of the sun vibes with you. Thank you for always making time for the community. We've been getting so many inquiries about Zanzibar, so many questions, and I want to make sure that we're able to, answer people's questions, but also share a little bit about why we're doing this, in the first place. And also just, I think, talk a little bit more about your business, your passion around, tourism in Tanzania, and why you decided to work with us, with the Africa Investors Academy. Does that sound good?
Yeah, perfect. You just loaded me with all these questions and I don't know where to start. Like you could interfere in between, if anything, because
of course
you're like telling me to like do a pitch, like who I am, what do I do, and like you're like trying to get me to do like 10 years into like a 1 minute pitch.
No, sorry, my bad. Okay, so I'll take it on back just so that I let people know what they're getting, right? Because everybody that's joining us this beautiful Saturday morning, wherever you're joining us from, popping in and hoping that this will be some value for you. If you had interest and you've been enjoying the content in Zanzibar, there's been so many questions. And so now I want to, because I couldn't answer all of them in the comments. I couldn't answer all of the emails. And so this is just that opportunity to do that, as well as, have some fun.
Oh yeah.
And share some more things, about what we're doing. So we'll take some steps back and say, so why did you decide to work with us on this event, on this Africa Investors Academy Summit? Let's start there.
Oh, wow. We are like nailing it. You're like hooking me in. You know what? It's like when you notice people, especially like, I will speak on the business aspect first. When you notice when when you see two people who could be able to come together and form beautiful unity, for me as a person who's very interested in, like, I was born and raised in Tanzania, and I want to see a way of how, like, I want to be that bridge where I help in terms of like bridging the gap between A and B. So giving it like a light, giving it like, yeah, just technically a bridge where you could just cross over and it's an easy move to the other side and you get to understand it and learn it. So meeting you, Ashley, was like, okay, we are on this side. Let me give it an example as a Brooklyn bridge. You're on the Brooklyn side and I'm in Manhattan. And I'm like, how do you cross over? So like, I want to build that bridge to kind of help in terms of like crossing over. So that's like the main reason why I'm so interested in like the economy, in like investments, in like you, in like thinking about people not only just coming onto the continent, just the first time is your vacation, great. The second time you need to rethink of like, how do I need to, what can I do different so I could be able to give back to the place that's, every time somebody looks at you, the first thing that comes up, especially like, let me say for African Americans, is African. So you need to find a way of how do I find out about self? How do I invest back in that area? Who am I? And then how do I give back to my people? Which is something that ended up happening to me as a Tanzanian living in New York. A lot of people were coming up to me and asking me, oh, how is Tanzania? Or some people will be like, oh, Tanzania is just the safaris and that's basically it. Oh, just Mount Kilimanjaro, that's it. And I don't want to do it. Just leave me alone. Don't talk to me about the country, or don't talk to me about Africa. It's poor, it's this. I don't want to do it. I just want something rich. I just want like keep on moving with my life. But nowadays people are realizing that, hey, I need to find out about self. And I need to see what else is out there. I need to find my life where it's kind of easy. Not easy, but like something different. Like I need an alternative way of living. And those were the things that were popping out in my head when I met you and we were talking. It's like there's so much openness, and how do we create a space where both of us, with what we know best, where we end up coming together and being able to service others, because this world is all about service. Either you're going to serve or you're going to stand by and just watch. So what do you do that? So like, actually, I'll take you back. I went to school in Uganda, and there's this song in Luganda that until today, I went to school when I was like 5 years old, 5 to like 11 before I came to the US. But this song has stayed in my head for like ever. Every single morning I wake up. I'm going to sing it to you guys. So I'm not a singer, but I'll sing it. So, and it has a lot of meaning for us. So for me, especially. So the song goes, Museno ndigamba muchi, kubencha njivamu. Abange barijukira kochi, kubencha njivamu wawange. Oba kuria buriyo kunywa bunywi. Temuri chamatendo nakukujukira rwa mabanja bisonyiwo. It gets me teary, but this song is in Luganda. I speak like 6 different languages, but besides that, the song is in Luganda. And the song says, in this world, what am I doing? In this world, how am I living it? In this world, what am I doing? Am I just contributing to my debt? Am I just contributing? Am I just drinking it away? Am I just like, what am I doing in this life? How am I contributing in this life? The day when I exit, how do I want people to remember me? So that song, I was like a baby going to boarding school in Uganda, and it has stayed in my mind. And like every single day when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, how do I want to show up in this world? And when I live this world, how do I want to be remembered? Like that is the question that all of us should be asking ourselves, and finding a way to serve others, because we are here in this world to serve. But you want to serve where it also serves you. We want to serve where it's like you wake up in the morning and you're like, yes, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to hop on my computer, or I'm going to go here and like, I'm going to kill it. And by killing it, you're able, that you could be able, like, there's so many things that you could benefit from it besides just self, to feel so proudly about yourself. By coming, like, let me say, in investment, you could be able to give back where you find the gap that's missing. Like, for example, you're coming into Zanzibar, you see somewhere where you're like, oh my God, I am really good at this particular thing. And I think, let's find a way. This whole summit is like, you want to see yourself there. You want to see, where am I good at, what resources that I have from the outside, and I see it could be a benefit at this particular location, and I want to try to find that groove, that system. How can I make this happen? How could I be of impact somewhere where, one, it's not only going to impact the other person, but you will be the person who is like, when I went to Africa, like, I was able to see so much, and this is how I changed the person when I came back, or I modified my life this way when I came back. Or like, listen, I had a good time, I enjoyed the beautiful beaches, and I saw the other side of the world that I would have never had to if I did not take this particular experience. So to me, it always comes back to that particular song, and it always comes back to just remembering, because even my grandmothers, they did so much for us, and we always remember them by those particular things that they did. So I don't remember by the pain that they went through, but I remember by the joys, by the contributions that they were able to make. So that's when I meet different people, I want to find, what is that, your passion, your core, and how do we find, and how do we become each other's bridges, where we could be able to help each other and also help others to be able to lean on us and get to the other place where they need to get to. So if that's a good explanation.
That is so good. You said so much. First of all, thank you for blessing us with that beautiful song. I could see the emotion in it. And you said you can't sing, but you definitely carried that tune.
I've
So
been
thank you
singing
for,
since I was 5, so I've been not to sing
yes,
it.
thank you for singing that song. Thank you for giving us, that was, you said so much, and I want to try to address everything that you said. First of all, 6 languages, flex. Okay, it's not a flex when it is what it is. But Justa, she shared with us that she speaks 6 languages, which is amazing. But also, I'm finding very common for continental Africans. Like, y'all are just multilingual, and from a psychological perspective, and just how much that affects like your intellect and your ability to translate culture and understanding and empathy, like that's just a whole nother space. And so going into the bridge building, as well as recognizing that our life is really about service. And so to your point, you're either going to serve others or you're going to be of service to others, willingly or unwillingly. So when you're aware of that service, you can put it into action versus basically working for someone else's dream, right? And I think one of the things that you said,
There's nothing wrong with that, as long as as long as you're intentional about whatever that you're doing. There's nothing wrong with working for others.
okay, we're back. I don't know what happened. We're back. But no, there isn't anything wrong with it when you're consciously aware. And I think one of the things is that the problem is that so many of us are not aware that that's what we're doing. And so that's when the things come of this kind of unawareness of self, or, anxiety, or feeling stuck in life. It's because we probably haven't made the decision that our life is of service to something, and that something is potentially bigger than we could ever imagine. And so I really can relate to that, because I'll say that, even this journey for me, I didn't intend on creating a platform or an academy, an organization, or even trips to say, I want to expose my experience to the world. Like, I've always been a pretty, private, introverted person that, just kind of like to live life. And when my, kind of close-knit family and friends started asking me questions and were so intrigued, I was like, yeah, I think it's important now, because everything that we're taught is totally the opposite. And being able to now share the experience with thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, not to do anything other than provide insight, provide clarity, encourage options, encourage alternatives, encourage an opportunity to have awareness of self in a new way. Because people can achieve awareness of self anywhere, but there's nothing like being African and experiencing Africa and learning and relearning and remembering about yourself in the land that really birthed you. So
exactly. Yeah.
That's, I feel like, what you meant when you said serving what serves you.
Exactly. Like it's one of those experiences where, like, since you, like, for some, let me say, for example, for somebody traveling from the US all the way to Tanzania, or like all the way to Asia or anywhere else in the world, it's like you're literally taking yourself, of course, physically, but also mentally, you are taking yourself on the other side where, especially if you do not know where you're going, what is happening. I mean, you have an itinerary, you know what's happening and everything, but you are removing yourself from your typical life and your typical everything to go into another place, a strange place where you're able to kind of like discover yourself and also discover with others of what is happening in your environment. This is almost like you're spending literally 24 hours a day of like just self work, or like discovering other places. But it's such a lot of my guests usually come for, like, let me say, for example, for like 10 days. When they leave in those 10 days, like, the connection and the relationships between the people who are traveling together and the local people there, who are like kind of like helping them to get around and everything, that relationship, because people are spending almost like more than 12 hours with each other, it becomes even tighter. The vulnerability section of it, people just open up. Like, you feel such a say, I have like a lot of our guests who come, they feel like they have such a safe zone where they could be able to share, and like literally we all kind of like, one, if you need somebody to listen to you, you're able to get somebody to listen to you. If you need to just listen to others, but like it's a safe space where when you travel from one place to the next, it's like you are opening yourself up and you're making yourself in that space where you're ready to receive, but then you also give also at the same time. And I feel like that's actually one of the beauties of like being able to travel and being able to take yourself out of your regular space, and going somewhere in search of a particular thing. And it's like it's a very focused time period, because you are preparing yourself almost like 3 months, 6 months ahead of time, and you're like, I am gonna make this leap of faith and I'm seeking for this particular thing. But like it's such a honor to be able to walk people through those particular experiences, because that one experience could probably define somebody's next whatever that's happening into their lives. I found that a lot for people who are traveling with us. So that's what I would like to share about that.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of being like a guest of Justa's, and during New Year's Eve. And one of my dearest friends, like a little brother, traveled to Tanzania from Atlanta with a group, Black and Abroad. But the Curious on Tanzania team laid it out. And I was kind of in earshot. Like I was able to attend a couple of events with them. But, just his perception, it was his first time on the continent. It's his second international country, or maybe third. And just the stories that he shared, the conversations, he didn't share intimate stories, but just like the relationships that were built, the way in which your team was like so comforting and supportive and helpful and engaging. Like, they talked about how, I was watching their conversations on social media, the love fest that they were all having with each other after traveling with each other for those 10 days, partying, experiencing culture, experiencing luxury. Like, it was really incredible to watch. And it was one of the, I was so excited for us to work together because I was like, okay, wow, if she can bring a bunch of like, if I can see, and I got to see another group of women that you were hosting at the same time,
Oh yeah.
like a totally different generation of people, of women, and they all had an amazing experience. So it's one thing to talk to a person, feel connected, and then say like, I'd love to work with her. And then to also get to experience the feedback in real time from those that are working with you is another level. And I was actually on a call yesterday with a family that's in the US that wanted to move to Kenya, and they're now thinking about Tanzania, and they were referred to you as somebody who could help them kind of navigate their discovery trip. So I was like, Krista is just, yes, like just doing it. And it's such an honor. It's so exciting to work with you and collaborate with you on this trip.
Yeah, and I'm
really
very
is.
I'm actually very thankful also for you, Ashley, to start like an academy like this where we focus on investing in Africa and kind of being that the leader in this our generation of like, hey, this is possible. Let's all work together. Let's figure it out together. Let's look at the different the different business environments and see where, instead of us just saying silent and not taking action. Like, I am very thankful for you for being able to be that person who's like, hey, let's do something about it. Let's do something about it. Let's explore it. Yes, it's an untapped place for a lot of people like us who look like us, but like, hey, let's work on making that a possibility. Because there's a lot of people who are coming when he's talking about like it just looking during the pandemic. Zanzibar has grown so fast, and a lot of investors have come in, and like literally when it comes to especially property investments, they cleaned out like so much. But it's not people like us, I should say, who are coming in, and we are also contributing, adding on to it. Because I know probably like 10, 20 years from now, we are going to start complaining, if we are not yet, of saying, hey, why aren't people like us owning particular things like this? Like, why didn't we know? Like, why didn't we ever find out about this particular thing? So we want to become,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like that person who's like, listen, we are going to make it happen. We are going to start from here. Let's not complain and let's take action.
Absolutely.
And that's where you're coming in with your impact. Is like you want to help other people to be able to discover the various opportunities. And you're not making it an obstacle. You are kind of like moving on with it and building all the partnerships that are needed to be able to make it happen, and the community that's needed to be able to make it happen. So I am so lucky to be able to work with
Oh.
like entrepreneurs like you. Like I work with like I like working with like very, especially when it comes, I am so sorry, I'm not like being like kind of like sectioning people off or being like racist, but sometimes in when it comes to like business, sometimes you have a target audience, and you need to understand how they what they like to do, how they like to move. And so when you are preparing the different opportunities, you're able to serve them the best. That's why I'm speaking
Right.
in that manner, and I'm speaking of, especially like when it comes to African Americans, because we want to understand what are they seeking, what are their needs, and how do we position ourselves to be able to cater to them. That's the mannerism I'm speaking of. But it doesn't mean other people might not be able to join, but I'm speaking in those manners because I understand that journey too. As a Black person living in the US 30% of the time now, but before I used to live in the US 100% of the time. I was a clinical dietitian for almost like 10 years. I left, I think it was almost like, I started working on Curious in Tanzania for almost like 9 years right now. But like by year 5, I was like, you know what? I need to either move back to just work as a clinical dietitian, or I need to take a leap of faith. and just hop over on the other side and try out the tourism world and see what happens. But then my other need was to go back home, and like I needed to find self. And one of those things that helped me a lot, like as a dietitian, I identified myself. Oh, I'm a dietitian, and that's like that was it. Like I go anywhere, it's like, oh, what? It's like, what do you do? I'm a dietitian, and that's basically it. But like, there was no contents, and there was no need for me to search and discover more of self, and even have this conversation. Like 6 years ago, we'll never be able to talk because I'll be like, I'm a dietitian. Like, story is done. Like, we don't need to talk about anything else.
Yeah.
But now it's like I'm able to relate to people because I did the work on myself, finding myself. Like I go back. 2 months ago, I was straight up in my village, and I will go back in my village. I will speak higher. I will find out what is happening within the community. If I need to contribute in any way, we'll find ways, or I'll keep it in my mind and know, like, when some guests come within my village, we know how to be able to support a certain group of people. I know probably like different entrepreneurs in my village, and I'm like, how can we be able to support you? Even if I have to just talk to you and just find out, okay, maybe if we put A and B, you could be able to get C. But like that has opened me up as a person where I have the freedom of like being able to just use what I have to benefit me and also benefit others. So if I feel like right now, like, hey, I am tired of the US and I'm going back to Tanzania, going back straight to my village and just sit there. Like my dad died like 2 years ago. So there's times when I go to my village and yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's actually, he died in peace. He enjoyed his life, and what he did, what I will always remember my dad. He always stayed put, and he always wanted us to remember who we are. So that's why he always stayed in the village. So by him staying in the village, and we are all the way in the United States, it's like if he wasn't positioned himself in the village, trust me, I probably would not know who I am because I wouldn't have that base. So when I go back to my village, I literally sit down because our house is here and his grave is like right there. That's how Africa works. Like all our graveyards are like, all our ancestors are like right next to us. So when I go back, there's actually this bench there that we get to sit and like literally have a conversation with him. And having a conversation is almost like meditating. For me, it's almost like meditating. So I was just sit there and be like, I am so lucky to be here with you, although you're gone, but like having this chance to be able to sit down here next to your grave and just be in peace, be quiet, and just be like, I'm happy to be here. But before he died, within those 5 years of me working as an entrepreneur, I had the opportunity to go back to my village every single time I had, sit down with my dad and talk to him. And he would tell me about our culture, about this, about that, meet the neighbors, meet everybody. So when I go back now, it's like I know all my neighbors because my dad had that relationship and helped me build that relationship and continue that relationship where our connection to like Tanzania or like to the village is not just cut off because I came to the United States. So it continues on.
Yes. And I think that that's so important. That's one of the things that, quite frankly, I'll speak for myself and just didn't grow up with that level of family connectedness, recognition of our ancestors. I know for many of us that have grown up in the US, the concept of that is very abstract. For some, is very anti what we're taught to believe, what we believe. And it seems to be something that's coming around. But I will say that, you know, when you talked about you moving your physical body, you're also moving your conscious body, your spiritual body. And that opens up a totally different portal into, you know, that remembering, you know, that reconnection. And, you know, while I don't have any or know of any immediate ancestors that are here, you know, buried on this continent, there is a feeling of celebration, a feeling of gratitude and just peace, right? Like when I'm anywhere on the continent, right? There are certain places that provide different different needs or desires than others, but I love that for you, and I love that duality that you get to experience. And I think, you know, if we all understood that we really have that opportunity,
Mhm.
just because we don't maybe have an immediate connection, we have one of the most powerful passports as Americans to be able to explore that option.
Yep.
So I want to jump into the questions. There are a few questions over here, but just for general, if I don't answer your question, it's probably because it's a little bit off topic, and I want to make sure we're staying on topic. And so for this, it's specifically about the Investors Academy Summit being held in Zanzibar this year, August 6th to the 13th, 2023. Um, and if you have questions about that, please be sure to go ahead and pop them in the chat. It would be really helpful if you put question and then colon and then your question, because that way I can immediately address it. So people are like, yes, beautiful song, Jusa, for singing. I think there are a couple questions around, I think Alkibun's son, he talked about being really drawn and traveling here for the last 3 years, I think, or there, because I'm no longer in Tanzania. You see, like, I still feel like I'm there, forever home. But, you know, one of the things that I did see he spoke about was residency options. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about during the summit is how you might be able to access residency options through establishing a business and through potential investment, right? And so this is a huge opportunity because a lot of African countries haven't really done this the way that Tanzania is starting to build this out. You see it in countries in Europe, countries in the Caribbean, countries in South America, Central America, but the continent specifically is kind of new to this residency by investment concept. And so you're going to get from the mouth of the decision makers what that looks like when you decide to create, establish a business, or invest in Tanzania, and the residency options. And things are changing, you know, every day. I see some
Very
folks
much
talking about,
so.
you know, diaspora unity. And so this is something that comes up, and a lot of people have questions about this. And I think this is how it starts, right? We have to show that we want to come.
Yep.
And granted, we have been kind of told that we shouldn't come. We've been told it's not a great place to go. It's not safe. They don't like us. But we know that that's not true anymore.
Yep.
There are thousands of YouTube channels, Instagram channels, media outlets that are starting to communicate and dispel this type of content. And so now we just have to be willing to leap and say, okay, we're gonna go and spend some time. And the more of us that come, the more the governments will start to pay attention and say, okay, like maybe we really should look into this. And transparently, there are a lot of conversations happening with government officials around diaspora involvement and diaspora opportunities, right? And so the more of us come, the more of us that are doing this work or even taking action, right? You don't need to create a YouTube channel. You don't need to throw events. But if you come and you show interest and you do things you know, within line of what the countries are looking to achieve, we're essentially going to kind of create that pathway.
I think that's a very important point to touch on. I think it's almost like, of course, the diaspora, we have to come together and identify where is our strength. And so by being able to identify the strength, and maybe on the other side, how can we strengthen it more, meaning the various businesses and various opportunities, or if you're wanting to find out what are the opportunities, you definitely have to visit the place to understand, at least to have a basic understanding. And then you start dreaming, and then you start investing and creating even bigger pictures, because it's open. We have a lot of other people who are coming in and investing, but we need to kind of like do the first step. The first step is to go and visit and see the environment. And then once you see it, if you catch the bug and you want to go like rushing to go, or like, hey, I want to do this and da 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 da, then you could be able to do that. But the first thing is to do visit. Your passport, just like Ashley said, your passport is one of the strongest passports. The United States, you could go anywhere in this world and nobody will stop you. In Tanzania, you get visa upon arrival. You could be able to get a visa upon arrival. Most likely, they're not going to stop you from entering the country and entering as a tourist and wanting to discover it and seeing the various opportunities. And then further, that's when you look into the residency. But with the visa, you have 1 year to be able to use up. You have multiple entry for 1 year. So let me say, if you're a business person, you could come in you could come in multiple times within that year on the same visa. Which is almost like not likely for like an immigrant coming from Africa coming to the US. It took us almost like 3 years or 4 years of applying every single year to be able to get a 3 month like a visa to come into the US. So
yeah, wow.
As an American, you do have more of an option of what you could be able to do.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And that kind of goes into, I think, when Americans, we don't realize the challenge that it is for people to come to the US. And so when we're looking to go outside of this country or outside of the US, we don't understand why it's also as like challenging, where we're really kind of starting a little further ahead. Mm-hmm. One, because we have our passport, and essentially we have the dollar, which goes further in many places. And so you touched a little bit on the visa upon arrival. Mm-hmm. This question from Todd is about the multiple entry visa. I want to say, just going to Tanzania a couple weeks ago, I noticed that was my third time getting a multiple entry visa. It was the easiest entry into the country that I had. So out of the 3 times, that was like the shortest time wait, where the guy asked me what I was doing there. I told him on holiday for this long. And he was like, okay, great, go get your visa. It was like quick. And I could tell, or maybe my brain was emitting that energy of like, okay, so Tanzania, they're very much, now they're serious about, not saying they weren't before, but I think they're intentional of recognizing that people are coming as tourists. Mm-hmm. And they want to have a great experience. So we are going to welcome them and we're going to support this piece of their experience so that they can enjoy the rest of their time in our country. So can you talk a little bit about the multiple entry visa and how it works?
So the multiple entry visa, it's $100 when you apply for it online. And basically you could be able to enter almost as many times as you want within the year. And you could be able to probably stay a gap of less than 90 days. Let me say, if you're in the country for less than 90 days, you have to exit and then you come back in, but you could use the same visa within that year time period. So that's what the multiple entry visa is about, and it should be $100.
Okay, awesome. And I recommend that people have if they do get the visa on arrival, bring $100 bill. It makes your experience a lot better. You don't have to wait in line for the card machine. And then if there's network issues, it's just, you don't have to have that process. Red Tails, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. India and Asia. So yes, I just posted a video about a beachfront property that I was told cost $30,000 to build. Now, disclaimer I put in the comments, right? Uh-huh. One, it was beachfront. The land obviously was way more, right? So this $30,000 was just to build it. Now it's getting right oceanfront.
So that means you does that mean that you rent the land from the community members?
So I don't know what his situation was. Okay. I just asked the builder. So the builder I met him at the hotel. He was the general contractor for the hotel, and he had also built that home for the owner. And so that home essentially was like on the same land as
Mhm.
the hotel. Really cute, 2 level, 2 bedroom with a kitchen, 2 bathroom, small but cute on the ocean. And he told me that that building cost 30,000 to build. Mind you, this was about 4 to 5 years ago, so it was pre-COVID construction costs.
Mhm.
But still, those construction prices are pretty consistent, 30 to 50,000 for a 2 bedroom.
Mhm.
Obviously, the land prices are going up. I think
Crazy
India and
up.
Asia, your
Yep.
question around financing. So this is a new concept on the continent, and it's not available to everyone. Most people buy their properties cash, and they
Mhm.
build on them as they go. They don't seek financing. So the mortgage concept is something that is very Western,
Yep.
and it's, a privilege that we've had in a credit-based society. These communities and cities are cash-based,
Yep.
so that concept of financing is a new concept. However, there seem to be banks that are kind of leaning into this idea, but it isn't something that is available to everybody. However, one of the things that we're working on is a collaboration with a global real estate brand that is in partnership with a bank in
Mhm.
Tanzania that is kind of entering into this market. So when we're able to confirm that with the folks that are interested in attending the academy, the Investors Academy Summit, it's really going to be an innovative thing because it's not something that has been made available to
Mhm.
everyone up until now, but for some people, they may have that opportunity. So thank you so much for asking that question. I'm actually in a cafe because my girls are playing outside at a like kitty area, and the wind is
Oh.
blowing. It's looking crazy. So I'm gonna have to go, but if there are any last minute questions, we want to make sure we answer your questions. We'll have about maybe 2 more minutes,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and
So
yeah,
the
go
other
from there.
thing is the other thing is that would be beautiful during the summit is exploring like ways of how financing, like what are the different ways. Like for example, when I bought my land in Zanzibar, they wanted the whole cash right there and then, but the person I was buying into was a local person. They didn't have a bank account, which is so crazy. I'm like, you don't have a bank account, but you want all the money in cash right there and then.
But
So I
but
ended up
y'all didn't hear Juica just drop that, like, oh, so when I bought my land in Zanzibar.
I
Okay,
did.
so she has land in Zanzibar. So she's the person that's done it, and she's a person that is a part of this summit that's going to give you that insight herself. I just
Yeah.
had to. You just slid that in there
No, there's
so
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 many.
so
There's
coyly and
yeah, there's so many
humbly.
ways of how you could. Because let me say, for example, if you're buying a piece of land and it's 25K, right? And of course you're going through all the paperwork and everything is legit, everything is right. And now you have to make the payments. You could be able to tell the people, hey, I would, especially some people don't even have, like I said, the person I was working with, they don't have a bank account. And I was like, how about if I give you, maybe I could make like 4 payments and it will be probably like within 2 years. And so I will give you now. We sign these papers, and you give out this rights. Sign it here, there, and then before you know it, 2 years pass by, and you've already paid for your land. Um, so like, there's so many different ways, and you shouldn't look at the limitations of getting a loan, but how could I make this happen? If I was able to make it happen, and now I'm waiting to build my villa, there's actually more land on my side where I
Yes,
bought, but like we'll talk about that later.
yes. She's waiting to build her villa. Okay. I think let's exit on that point. Thank you so much, Juica, for sharing, for joining us today. Thank you all for joining the live stream. If you found value in this content, please be sure to like it and share it with someone who would find value in it as well. And join us if you want to join us in Zanzibar this August. You can join us. Visit the link in the description. I'll also link and pin a link at the top of the comments so that you can submit your deposit and you can join us there. And we'd love to have you. So I'm going to close out with my favorite video. And until next time, we'll see you soon.